is. Thank you. No. I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it's really great to see you guys. I haven't seen some of you since yesterday. I haven't seen some of you in 10 years. So it's really to see you. Many of you have seen this presentation before. I know because I've given it to you before. There is a handout coming around, a laminated sheet, cheat sheet on Buddhism. If you want to learn to integrate Buddhism into your counseling, you're going to need a little bit more than the 1 little hour that they've given me. So when they gave this hour, they said, and it has to be an hour. And then when I got here, they said, you have to keep it to an hour. Why do they keep telling me that? Oh, yeah. One of the things I want to start with is this idea of Buddhism. You know, yes, it's considered a religion, but it's also a philosophy and it's also a psychology. And we're going to talk about that and ways that we can integrate it into helping people that are suffering. So I'm going to give you, I only have an hour, a very quick, brief history, but you do need to have the background to understand what was the principles of Buddhism. So many of you read Siddhartha in high school. Who knows about Siddhartha already? Okay, so about half of you. The rest of you went to probably private school, right? So Siddhartha was an emperor's son who was raised, as many of us raise our children, trying to keep them naive and to keep them from suffering and to tell them about Santa Claus, to tell them that there's wonderful fantasy goodness in the world, and that we try to keep the suffering away from them. And he was raised the same way, only within walls. And when he got out of the walls one day, he realized that there is something out there, and these are some of the suffering that he saw, that he visualized. He saw old people who were having pain, he saw sickness, he saw death, and he saw people who were very poor and gave up worldly pleasures. And this is important for later on when you look at the actual philosophy of it. When he was born in astrology, he told his father either to be an emperor or he would be a renowned religious man who would poor and renowned for everything. So he left his walls of castle and he moved for 7 years and traveled with other holy men trying to find enlightenment. Okay, so many of you have seen these yin-yangs. They're kind of a thing in our country now. But what happened was he tried to starve himself. He tried all kinds of different methods of extremities, and he realized that the middle way, the line between, is actually where the happiness lives. He sat under a meditation tree, which, P.S., I'm taking some students next January to India. Hopefully we're going to sit under that same Bodhi tree. Wish you were here. To achieve enlightenment. He not only gave him perfect knowledge of himself, but it also gained perfect knowledge of his past lives. So he was given a choice to die because we were given a choice. You know how so many people, when they're at the end of life, they stay until the last person comes or things like that. Well, he was given a choice, and he had to stay and go back again. He was given a choice all the time. Each time we die, we're given a choice to come back. But to reach nirvana, we have to come back. People called him a god, Tathagata, but he, even today, who will get to the Dalai Lama, he's not a god, and he says, I'm a god, I'm a teacher. Okay? In Buddhism, there is no god. There is only teachers and people that we're all each other's teachers. Okay, so monks began to follow him, and we call it Sangha, which is a community of followers, teachers. Like this is a Sangha that we have here now. So this was the first world religion to develop monastery. It is still patriarchal, just like all the other religions. I have to just throw that in there. Okay, so one of the differences about the Buddha and what the Buddha taught was that he didn't teach what he learned and give it to other people. He taught people how to become enlightened, like he had done. And that's different. He's not going to the mountain and bringing down what he's gotten from God. He's telling people, this is how you get it for yourself. Again, there is no God per se, there's many teachers. And the point of Buddhism is contemplation of life, death, and the mysticism around it. You know, we talk about, with Carl Jung, we talk a lot about synchronicity, and we use that term a lot. You know, if you pay attention to synchronicity, life is much cooler. Maybe it's not true. What do we know that is true? Right? Maybe it's not, but it's cool, and it's a better way to live. And anyone can become enlightened. Now, not everyone can become enlightened in this lifetime, right? Because you might not be at a point where you can get there, but you can become enlightened, and you can do enough good karma in this lifetime to the next level. Okay, so Siddhartha is now, according to this religion, the Dalai Lama. And this is the 14th Dalai Lama in, I can't do math, that's why I'm a counselor, but thousands of years, thank you, almost 3,000 years. He's only the 14th Dalai Lama. So you think about how many times he's lived. Right? Now, the 13th Dalai Lama, ironically, only died in the 1930s. These two have been close together because we're coming to some kind of maybe fast end here. I feel like I just want to go out and talk to you guys. All right, so some basic concepts around Buddhism. Well, everybody's heard of karma. Now, karma isn't what we use it as here, like I can till your karma comes around, I can see what happens to you. You know, it's not really like that. It's more a scorecard card that we keep in this life, and intentioners. So if you intend to hurt people, like my ex-husband, that would be okay. But if you intend to hurt people, then then it's really a problem for your karma. But if you accidentally hurt people, it still could be, on a negative your scorecard, but it's not going to be as much negative for you to have to work it off. Intention really matters. And enlightenment really means that you've reached the highest level of compassion possible, like perhaps the Dalai Lama has. I tell this story about the Dalai Lama that I heard him say in New York time, where he said the reason he went leaving Tibet and leaving his country after the Chinese had killed his people was because he was afraid for his life, but he was afraid for his soul. He was afraid that he would lose compassion for the Chinese, and he still wanted to be able to love them. And after he had seen all the death that they had created, that's why he finally left that. So that's like the highest level of compassion. And he'll tell you he loves everyone, including people who have hurt him horribly. Okay, and that's enlightenment. And nirvana is sort of heaven. It's the place of, if you have love in your heart, you don't get mad, nothing hurts. And so the middle way is what we talked about, and the middle way is a non-judgmental, it's also kind of Roger's way, isn't it? Non-judgment, empathy, right? Authenticity. So compassion is the calling of Buddhism, and that's what we strive for. As counselors, I hope that's what we strive for, is to be compassionate to all people. We work with people who have done some bad things in their lives, and to be able to still show them compassion, still love them. That's our highest calling too. So we're, when Dr. Rowland this morning said, like, we have the best profession ever, yeah, actually, they're not, get to be on this every day. And sometimes we choose to not go that way. Sometimes we choose to go with our colleagues who might be burned out and call names, and sometimes we don't. To be able to be compassionate to everybody really is the highest calling. Loving kindness, which we'll talk about in meditation later on, loving kindness meditations to show that to all beings, including animals. And I took some students over to a Buddhist temple. I teach the religion, for those of you I don't know, I teach the religion and I took some students, I forget who it was, it might have been one of you, over to the Buddhist temple. And it was the middle of the summer, and the windows are open, it's hot, there's no air and we're sitting on the floor, and there was this giant fly flying around and landing on all of us. And I saw this one girl going for it. You don't want to kill anything, especially in the temple, right? They don't kill anything. So I was like, kill it, don't kill it, don't kill it, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen and what the monk would. She like swatted the fly and killed it right in the temple, because you don't. live a good, honorable life. When you get older and think back, you'll be able to enjoy it a second time. Integrity versus despair, right? And then how we interact with each other and how we treat the earth, that matters. At least once a year, go someplace you've never been before, right? If you want to be happy, practice compassion, right? And then these are some symbols, if you ever know Buddhism. Also, you know what is another symbol is the swastika. I didn't put it up here because I don't want to shock you, but that's actually a Buddhist symbol that the Nazis took and turned. It's actually a Hindu symbol, but that the Nazis took and turned to make it into a swastika.